Well, have you ever had a friend that you'd wish you'd never met? If they're here, don't make eye contact with them right now. That would be a little bit rude. But have you ever had a friend that you wish you hadn't met? Have you ever had a friend that was just a really bad influence on you? And you know that now, looking back. So why would you wish you never have met a friend, right? I mean, usually because of some kind of regret that you have. You regret the things you did together, you regret the trouble you got into, you regret the people that you hurt together. Looking back, you know if you had just never met that friend, then perhaps you could have avoided all that regret to begin with. And so what is so strange, though, is that this person that you now might wish that you'd never met, that person was a friend. Maybe still is a friend. It's not an enemy. You liked them. This was a person that you liked and you enjoyed being around. It was a friend, which teaches us this important point that we're talking about today, which is that some friends we've met have led to regret. Some friends we've met have led to regret. Some of our greatest regrets can be caused by our friends. Some friends we've met have led to regret. And so we're in week 2 of our message series we're calling Guardrails, which is about regret, namely teaching us how to build these principles in our life that will help save us from these moments of great regret. So what is a guardrail? Well, if you were here last week, you learned a few things about guardrails. We introduced this series as Chris introduced it for us. You know what a guardrail is on the side of the road already, right? You're not dumb, but I'm going to share with you a little bit more about what a guardrail is so that you can help to apply it to your everyday life, not just to a transportation system. So what is a guardrail? A guardrail is a system designed to keep vehicles from straying into dangerous or off-limit areas. It's a system designed to keep vehicles from straying into dangerous or off-limit areas. Now, we learned last week that guardrails direct us and protect us. They direct us and protect us. So here's something else very important we learned about guardrails, is that guardrails are never placed in the danger zone. Guardrails are placed in the safety zone. So if they were placed directly in the danger zone, then once we actually hit the guardrail, then it would already be too late. Then if they were placed in the danger zone on the very edge between life and death, on the very edge of the cliff, then once our car hit the guardrail, then we'd already be going over the cliff and to our death. So guardrails are not placed directly on the edge between life and death. No, they're placed in the safety zone to give us a little bit of margin before we reach that danger zone. The guardrail minimizes the damage in that way. It causes damage, yes, but it minimizes the amount of damage that would be caused. It keeps us from experiencing further damage. So when you hit a guardrail, you get kind of fender bender type damage. When you careen over a cliff, you total your car and you die. So which do you prefer, right? So there's a minimized damage that occurs when we hit a guardrail. So that's why we prefer to have guardrails on our roadway. And we all accept guardrails to be this reasonable defense against catastrophe, and we all believe them to be a helpful invention for us to be safe on the roadway. So what would happen then if we took that principle, if we took that idea of guardrails, not just for the roadway, but for our way of life? What would happen if we built guardrails into our lives? How might we apply these principles of guardrails to our social life, to our financial life, to our professional life, our relational life? Could it be possible, if we did that our greatest regrets in life would be prevented by these guardrails? That time that you might have gone just a little bit too far, that time that you went over the edge back in life, could that time have been prevented if you had just established some guardrails in your life? And so, when we talk about guardrails, I know there might be a little pushback from us here. First of all, because no one ever likes to believe that any of the things that were bad that happened to us in our past had anything to do with our fault. We don't like to believe that the things that happened in our past might have maybe been prevented if we had just been a little bit more responsible, if we had just taken a few more precautions. So I know there might be a little pushback there, but I also know that when you hear the idea of building guardrails, it sounds a little bit like building rules, more rules, and more rules, and rules don't ever sound like they're very much fun. Who likes rules? We don't like rules in our culture. We like flexibility in our culture. We like shades of gray. In a way, our culture is fine with lines and boundaries as long as they're just painted lines that we can drive over on occasion when we want to and then come back over into our lane. Because lines don't cause the damage at all. Painted lines don't cause damage when we cross them. But sometimes if we're honest with ourselves, painted lines are not enough for us. Painted lines are not enough. So I went to college at the University of Texas at Austin, and while I did that, my girlfriend, now wife Nikki, went to Houston Baptist University. So that meant that about every 2 to 3 weeks, I would drive home to Houston for the weekend to hang out with her. So I got to know these roads between Austin and Houston really very well. There were these two main routes from Austin back to Houston that many people took. One route was 290 from Austin, you know this. The problem with 290 back then, though, was that there was one stretch of 290 that was 4 lanes, 2 lanes each direction, that was only divided by two yellow painted lines. Undivided highway, 70 plus miles an hour both directions. Constantly heard about head-on collisions that were happening in the news on this stretch of 290. People falling asleep at the wheel and getting in wrecks on this stretch of 290. And so that stretch of undivided highway, I was going to avoid that like the plague, because as much as I traveled it. So instead, I took this other route. I took 71 to I-10, Highway 71 to I-10. And on this route, these lanes of traffic were divided by a large grassy median in between them. And so one weekend, in my final month of my senior year, one of the last times I'm ever going to have to make this drive from Austin to Houston again, I was traveling this normal route, 71 to I-10. I had just merged onto I-10 from 71 in Columbus. Some of you know where I'm talking about. And because I was a very responsible young man, I was driving the speed limit. I was even driving on cruise control, just like Chris taught us to do last week in the message. I was driving on cruise control. The problem with cruise control was that it was raining. And I don't know if you know this or not, so I'm going to give you a quick PSA, public service announcement, in case you don't know, like I didn't know, but it's not good to drive with cruise control on in the rain. It's not very safe. So now you know, stay safe out there, guys. So I'm driving in the left-hand lane. My car starts to accelerate quickly over a small hill in the road, but the cruise control engages too quickly, and my back tires began to spin out of control, and I start hydroplaning, and my car pulls me off the road into this big grassy median. I'm braking, and I'm trying to steer as best I can through the grass, but I can't stop. And so I'm heading towards the other side of the highway, which is oncoming traffic going 70 plus miles an hour, and thankfully, my left front fender hit something. It hit a giant light pole, and it spun my car around, but it brought my car to a stop, which is a good thing. And so I called my dad. He came and picked me up. The insurance covered the car, and all was well. I walked away without a single scratch on me. And by the way, that giant light pole that I hit actually fell across the lanes of I-10 traffic, the eastbound I-10 traffic, blocking the entire road, and yet still, no one was hurt. I don't think I've ever really stopped to think about how bad that accident could have been if I had careened into oncoming traffic. And I will never know the catastrophe that I might have avoided because I just happened to hit that light pole first. And that is what guardrails are intended to do for us in life. They're placed in that safe zone to minimize the damage that would have been experienced in the danger zone. Now, my car was completely totaled, but I'll take that to be alive. And I'll take that there weren't multiple cars that were totaled and multiple people who were dead. So the damage was done, but it was minimal damage. And just so you know, now on those same stretches of I-10 and 290 that I've been talking about, there are guardrails that you see going down just about the entire stretch there. And if you look closely to them, you will see a plaque with my name on it. Because even though our culture really wants just painted lines to divide us, we're thankful. We're thankful when there's actually a guardrail in place to protect us, because those painted lines, those areas of gray, they're just not enough. And today we're talking about what it means to establish guardrails in the realms of our friendships and our associates, our friends and our associates. We're talking about the people that you hang out with on a daily basis, day in and day out. You're around these people all the time. You interact with them daily. And what I'd like to suggest to you today is for these people, your friends and your associates, you need guardrails in those relationships, with your friendships and with your associates. You need guardrails. I need guardrails with my friends. Yes, that's what I'm saying, with your friends. But that sounds so judgmental, that we have to put guardrails, put our guard up in front of our friends. It sounds judgmental. I've known this guy since 3rd grade, or I've known her, we've been friends forever. Maybe so. But establishing guardrails is not being judgmental towards those people. It's not judging those people as bad people or wrong people or whatever. I'm not asking you to be judgmental towards those people. I'm asking you instead to use good judgment. And being judgmental and using good judgment are two very different things. So here's the big difference between being judgmental and using good judgment. Being judgmental involves me judging for you what you should do. But using good judgment involves me judging for me what I should do. So good judgment is me asking the question of myself, in light of my past experience, in light of my present circumstances, in light of my future hopes and dreams, what is the wise thing for me to do? Being judgmental is saying to your friends, you shouldn't do that. Using good judgment is saying to your friends, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. What I'm saying is I shouldn't do that with you. You may be able to stay safe as you do those things in life, but I know for me, I would careen over the edge. So setting up these guardrails in the areas of our friendships and our associates simply means that we understand the power that friendships have to affect our lives. Because when it comes to friends, we know the power of proximity. Remember, some friends we met have led to regret. And our friends determine the direction and the quality of our life. You've heard this before from Jim Rohn, who says you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So do you know what that means? That means that if your 5 closest friends are bad decision makers, below average decision makers, then you are going to become a below average decision maker. If your 5 closest associates are teetering on the edge of a moral cliff, then you're going to teeter on the edge right there with them. When it comes to our friends, we need to understand the power of proximity. And it's sometimes really just hard to see the power that friends have over us. Sometimes it can be easier, though, to see the power that friends have over other people. It can be really easy, especially easy for parents, to see the power that their kids' friends have over their kids. So parents really get the power of the wild friend over their own friend, over their own kid. So Proverbs 28:7, parents sympathize with this, which says, those with wild friends bring shame to their parents. Those with wild friends bring shame to their parents. So parents might let their kids go and play on a play date with some kid at the kid's house, but their own kid then comes home and they've learned some new 4-letter words, and they say, that's it. You're not going to spend any more time with that friend at their house. I'm going to set up a guardrail. I want to be there when you're around this friend. Right? That's a guardrail. A kid starts hanging out with a different group of friends, and all of a sudden your kid comes home and their wardrobe starts to change, and she starts to dress like her new friends, and the kids think, Joe, Mom, I just changed my mind. Now I like to wear these clothes. And you're thinking, nobody likes to wear black lipstick and black nail polish. You didn't change your mind. Your friends changed your mind for you. Right? Not maliciously, not intentionally, not willfully. It just happened because of the power of proximity to them. So when it comes to friends, there is power in proximity. And I read an article by Chris Weller in Business Insider who wrote this. He said, according to Moran Cerf, a neuroscientist, there was a study at Northwestern University, a neuroscientist at Northwestern University who has been studying decision-making for over a decade, the surest way to maximize happiness, sounds like something we want to do, surest way to maximize happiness has nothing to do with experiences, material goods, or personal philosophy. It's all about who you decide to spend time with. But it's not just advice to choose your friends carefully. His neuroscience research has found that when 2 people are in each other's company, their brain waves will begin to look nearly identical. The more we study engagement, we see time and time again that just being next to certain people actually aligns your brain with them. That's the power of proximity. So the article continues and reads, if people want to maximize happiness and minimize stress, they should build a life that requires fewer decisions by surrounding themselves with people who embody the traits they prefer. Over time, they will naturally pick up on those desirable attitudes and behaviors. So this happens automatically without any effort. This is just the power of proximity at work. But of course, we already know the power of proximity. You already actually believe in the power of proximity. You know this because of a stupid question that your parents have asked you before. And if you're a parent now, you've asked the same stupid question to your own kids. And the same stupid question keeps getting passed down from generation to generation. What is the stupid question? If all your friends jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge too? That's the stupid question. Why do we keep asking this question? Because for generations and generations, our friends have been influencing us in the decisions that we make. And sometimes influencing us or even pressuring us to make bad decisions, unwise decisions, wrong decisions. Some friends we've met have led to regret. So, if all my friends would jump off the bridge, would I jump off the bridge too? No. Why? Because bridges have guardrails. Bridges have guardrails, and a guardrail protects and directs me away from that unwise decision that my friends are making. So let's set up these guardrails in our friendships so that we don't end up over the edge with them. Now, this is the advice that our parents have been giving us for generations. This is the advice that the Bible has been giving us for thousands of years. It's the writing of Solomon in the book of Proverbs, a book that's all about wisdom. If you want to get wise, if you want to start living wisely, thinking wisely, then the book of Proverbs is a book that you should read. Like in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20, when King Solomon gives us this simple, practical, wise advice, he writes, "Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble." Now listen, he says, just walk with the wise. It will start to happen naturally. Your steps will sync up together as you walk in rhythm with that person. Your brain waves, we just learned, will sync up as you start to think like them and talk like them and dress like them and make decisions like them. Wisdom in that way is contagious. It just happens through the power of proximity. And on the flip side of that verse, we read, it says, associate with fools and get in trouble. Now listen to that verse again closely and see if you catch the difference between walking with the wise and associating with fools. He says, walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. Did you notice the subtle difference there? You expect Solomon to say, walk with the wise and become wise, walk with fools and become a fool. But instead, he doesn't say walk with a fool and become a fool. He says walk with fools and get into trouble. In other words, it doesn't matter if you actually become the fool. It doesn't matter if you actually do the foolish things your foolish friends do. It doesn't matter if you say, come on, Mom, you know I would never do those things. Just because my friends are, you know me, you know that I would never do that. That doesn't matter. You will get into trouble because you are associated with people who do foolish things. You will be guilty by association. You will be an accessory to their crimes. You don't have to do the foolish things in order to get into trouble. Just that your proximity to them will get you into trouble. You'll catch the blast. You'll catch the shrapnel from the power of proximity's blast radius. Okay, friends that aren't careful about their own lives won't be careful with your life. Friends that aren't careful with their health won't be careful or concerned about your health. Friends that aren't careful with their marriages won't be concerned about your marriages. Friends that aren't careful with their finances won't be concerned about your finances. Friends that don't care about faith won't care about your faith. And friends that aren't concerned about their own future certainly won't be concerned about your future. So I want to give you 6 quick possible guardrails that you can establish in your friends and in your associates. Now, these are things that once you put them into place in your life and you notice these things happening, then your conscience will light up. You will say, whoops, I just bumped into a guardrail. It's time to back away and to move away from the edge. So these are just things that should make us take note. They're things that should make us say, whoa, too close to the edge, let me back away. So the first one is when you don't want to be what they're becoming. When you don't want to be what your friends are becoming, put a guardrail there. If your friends are moving in a different direction than you want to move in your life, if they're becoming more and more negative, more and more careless, they used to just have a couple of beers on the weekend, but now you've noticed that it's with every dinner and with every lunch and every day after work, and they're just kind of sliding down this hill that you don't want to go to. You know where that path leads, and put a guardrail there. Because where people are heading is where they will lead us. I know the road that you're about to go down, and I don't want to go there. When you don't want to be what they're becoming, put a guardrail there. Number two, when you're around them and you pretend to be someone else, put a guardrail there. If I find myself having to pretend around my friends, if I feel like I'm basically having to lie to my friends, then those friends are probably not very good friends, and I'm not being a very good friend to them because I'm lying to them, right? I'm just pretending. And Proverbs 24:26 says, an honest answer is like a kiss of friendship. See, friendship is supposed to be about honesty. That's what that means. So when you surround yourself, when you're around with these people that you have to pretend to be someone else, then put a guardrail there. And the third one, when you feel pressured to compromise, put a guardrail there. So you should butt up against this guardrail when you feel peer pressure, when you start to imagine yourself crossing this line that you don't want to cross. Not once you've compromised, not once you cross the line. That's not where the guardrail goes. That's too late. That's in the danger zone. But before that, when you feel the pressure to compromise, put a guardrail there. Just take notice of that. Maybe back away slowly. The fourth is when you find yourself saying, well, I'll go, but I won't participate. I'll go, but I won't participate. Put a guardrail there. Because remember, it doesn't really matter if you participate or not. The proximity is what's so powerful in those moments. It's just that you associate with fools and you'll get into trouble. So when you find yourself saying, I'll go, but I won't participate, then put a guardrail there. The fifth one is when you hope that the people you care about don't know your whereabouts. When you hope the people you care about don't know your whereabouts, put a guardrail there. If you're thinking, I really hope nobody sees me here. I really hope none of my foolish friends take a picture of this and put it on social media. I really hope that my employer doesn't see this on Facebook or my grandmother doesn't see this on Facebook. That should be a guardrail for you. If I post it on social media, will my employer be concerned? When you hope the people you care about don't know your whereabouts, put a guardrail there. Number 6 is when you're all doing the same things you did in high school, put a guardrail there. So are you and your friends the same people you were back in high school? Because you shouldn't be. Right? The things that were cute and acceptable in high school are no longer acceptable at 25. You're supposed to grow up. You're supposed to mature. You're supposed to change. You need to change. In fact, if you're not changing and you're not growing, then you're actually dying. And when you are all doing the same things as you were in high school, put a guardrail there. So those are just 6 possible guardrails for you. There's a bit of wisdom advice for you. We find some of those in the book of Proverbs. You might think of even more for your own specific friends because these 6 are not all hard and fast rules. Remember, they're the stuff that's in the safety zone. This is not the danger zone. We're not talking about sin here. We're talking about this is the safety zone. This is to protect us from moving into that danger zone. So look at your friends. Where do you need to establish guardrails? What friends or associates of yours do you need to have a few guardrails placed in front of them? Who is a bad influence on you? I mean, I know that it sounds bad to talk about that. We're supposed to love everybody and all that stuff. And I'm not saying not to love them. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm simply asking who's bad for you? Who's bad for you? Who are you giving the power of proximity to? Because by letting some friend or associate near you, you are giving them power over your life. You're giving them the power to change you. You're giving them the power to influence you. You're giving them the power to make you wise or the power to make you do foolish things. Who are you giving the power of proximity to? So to keep from living a foolish life, we have to do what wise people do, which is to drive on roads with guardrails. You've got to have this moment of clarity in your life, this moment of wisdom where you examine your friends and your associates and you figure out for you, who's bad for you. Being near them is either going to help you to become more wise, or being near them is going to help you to get into trouble. Now, I'm not telling you that the people that you hang out with have to be perfect people to be your friends, right? That would never happen. We're all so messed up. We're all such sinners that none of us would have any friends and we would all be completely alone. So that's not what I'm saying. This is not about your friends' imperfections. This is about your imperfections. This is about knowing where you are weak. This is about knowing where you are prone to get into trouble. And then setting up a guardrail between you and the person who's going to lead you to the edge fast. So in very basic terms, If you're an alcoholic, don't hang out with people who drink. If you use drugs, don't hang out with other people that use drugs. If you're struggling in your marriage, quit going clubbing with your single friends, right? Look, there is nothing bad about being single, right? There's nothing, we're not talking about your friends' issues. This is about your issues. And if you are struggling in your marriage, then walk with people who have struggled in their marriage and somehow managed to make it through. Or you might actually talk to somebody that's not made it through, somebody who's been through the divorce, and somebody who's wise enough now to look back and say, look, this is where I messed up. This is where I've learned from my mistakes, and this is how I'm going to be a better husband or a better wife in my next marriage. Find the mistakes of others, the regrets of others, and learn from their mistakes. Don't create your own new regrets. With what friends do you need to establish guardrails? Maybe the worst influences on you are the people that you work with and you have to be around every single day. You have no power not to be close with them. Maybe they're classmates and you're stuck with them in class every day. Maybe they're family and you're going to be with them for the rest of your life because you just can't cut off all associations with your family. But can you establish some sort of guardrail in those areas? Can you establish a time limit on the activities that you do together? Can you decide upon a limit of the types of activities that you'll do together? Can you decide on what kinds of business you'll go into with these associates and what kinds of business you won't go into? Can you decide maybe to bring a trusted, wise friend with you when you're going near this foolish friend? And also, how can you establish a guardrail that will direct you towards the wise friends? Remember, guardrails don't just help us to avoid the dangers, they also help us to find the right path or the right road. They protect and direct. So in addition to establishing guardrails to avoid the dangers, what guardrails can you establish to stay on the right road, to stay on the straight and narrow? I believe your grassroots group will be one of those guardrails for you. Your guardrail will be that you actually attend one of those groups, and so that you have people in your life that you know will help you to make the right choices, that want to keep you in the right direction in life. You also might pursue an AA group or an NA group, or establish a guardrail with a relationship, a mentor, a sponsor in those ways. Your guardrail might be to begin an accountability group with just one or two friends that you meet every couple of weeks for coffee or for lunch or something, and you just have somebody that you talk about the deep things of life with. A guardrail might be to get involved in the men's discipleship group that we're talking about starting, because remember, all these guardrails are not just about avoiding bad things. They're about finding the good influences, finding the wise people that we can spend time with. So to whom will you give the power of proximity over your life? That is the question that we have to ask ourselves. That is the question that we have to ask God to reveal to us. So let's do that now. Let's just close today's message with a request to God to direct us in His wisdom to those right people, to protect us from those wrong people in our lives. Let's pray together. Loving God, thank you for guiding us on the right paths of life, as your word says. Thank you for your guidance and your wisdom. Thank you for your plans to prosper us and not to harm us. Lord, please give us wisdom today. Reveal the friendships in our lives in which we need guardrails. Reveal the wise people that you want us to spend more time with, so that we can live the way you want us to live, so that we can live a better life in a relationship with you. Because we know that there is power and proximity to you, and we want to be closer to you. And Father, as we prepare for communion today, we prepare to receive broken bread dipped in juice as a reminder of your body that was broken and your blood that was shed on the cross as you died for us. So God, please be close to us in this meal. Come near, fill this bread and juice with your Holy Spirit, so that as we eat it, we would be filled with your Spirit, that we would feel the presence and the closeness of your Holy Spirit filling our lives. Draw us close to you in Jesus' name.